Rain was coming down in sheets when I saw the foreclosure sign staked into the front lawn like a warning. My parents were standing on the curb with cardboard boxes getting soaked through, my brother pacing like it was someone else's fault, and my mom clutching a plastic bag like it was the last thing she owned. I sat across the street in my warm car, hands wrapped around a coffee, watching them realize something they never bothered to learn about adulthood. They told me I had 24 hours to pack because my golden child brother needed my room. They said, "This is our house, you just live here." They even changed the locks to make sure I got the message. They forgot one tiny detail. The bank doesn't care who lives there. The bank cares who pays. And for the last 5 years, the name on that mortgage payment was mine. Welcome back to Jenny's Karma Diaries. If you love revenge and karma stories where people get exactly what they demanded, you'll want to hear how this ends. My name is Jessie, and this is my story. Before I rewind, hit like, share, and subscribe because the way this flips is honestly satisfying. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been treated like a guest in a place you were paying for? Also, stay with me until the end because the real payoff isn't just the foreclosure sign. It's the moment my dad called me screaming, and I repeated his own words back to him, slowly, politely, and with zero emotion. All right. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the reason my signature ended up on a loan my parents acted like they owned. When people see that foreclosure sign, they assume my parents were always careless with money. That's not exactly true. They were careful with money they considered theirs. They were just reckless with anything that came from me. 5 years earlier, my parents were stuck. They had a messy financial history, missed payments, old debt, and a credit score that made banks treat them like a risk. My dad blamed the economy. My mom blamed bad luck. But the truth was simpler. They kept making big adult decisions with zero planning, then expecting someone else to catch them. That someone else became me the moment I turned 21 and built decent credit. I was working nonstop back then. I didn't have a safety net, so I did what a lot of scared young adults do. I tried to create one. I paid everything on time. I kept my balance low. I did the responsible thing because I thought responsibility would eventually buy me respect. Then my parents sat me down and suddenly started acting gentle. My dad said, "We just need one break, Jessie. One house. One stable place. Then we'll be okay." My mom took my hand and said, "We'd never ask if we had another option." And I believed them because I still had that stupid hope that if I helped enough, they'd finally treat me like I mattered. So I agreed to help them buy the house. Here's what it looked like on paper. The house was in the family's name, the kind of setup where everyone could say, "We did this together." But the mortgage, the actual loan, the actual monthly payment was tied to me. My name. My signature, my credit, because the bank didn't care about my parents' speeches or their guilt trips. The bank cared about who could be held responsible. And for the next 5 years, I paid. Every month like clockwork. $2,500, give or take, depending on escrow changes. Not because I was rich. Because I was terrified of what would happen if I didn't. Late fees. Collections. My credit getting wrecked. The thing I'd worked so hard to build. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself my parents would refinance once their credit improved. I told myself we were a team. But in my family, team always meant I worked and they took credit. And then there was my brother. Ryan. 28. The golden child. The family genius, according to my mom. The creative soul, according to my dad. The guy who had tried and quit more dream careers than I could count. At one point it was music. Then photography. Then digital art. Then he decided he was an artist who couldn't possibly work a normal job because it would kill his spirit. Meanwhile, I worked real hours. Real shifts. Real bills. I paid for a house I wasn't even allowed to feel comfortable in. Ryan treated the place like a hotel. He would drift in and out whenever he needed something. Food, laundry, a free place to crash after a breakup. My parents would light up when he walked in like he was a returning soldier. When I came home, they barely looked up. And if I ever tried to talk about the mortgage, my mom would give me that fake soft voice. "Don't be so transactional, Jessie," she'd say. Family doesn't keep score. But they were keeping score. They just wanted to be the only ones allowed to count. Things got worse when Ryan showed up one afternoon with a new girlfriend and a big announcement. "We're moving in," he said, like it was already decided. Not "can we?" Not "is it okay?" Just "we're moving in." My dad was thrilled. He actually smiled like this was a gift. "Great," he said. "The house will feel alive again." I stood there, trying to process what he meant by that because I had been there the whole time. Paying. Working. Holding everything up. Ryan walked through the house, pointing at rooms like he was choosing a suite. Then he stopped at the master bedroom, the room I had been using because I was the one paying the biggest bill in the house. He said, "This is perfect for us." I laughed a little because I honestly thought it was a joke. My dad didn't laugh. My mom didn't laugh either. She looked at me like I was about to ruin something special. My dad cleared his throat and said, "Jessie, you'll move your stuff. Ryan needs the master. He needs space." "Space for what?" I asked before I could stop myself. Ryan shrugged. "To create." I stared at him, then at my parents, and I felt that familiar tightness in my chest, the feeling of being outvoted in my own life. I said carefully, "I pay the mortgage. I pay most of the bills. Why am I the one being pushed out?" My mom's face hardened instantly. "Because we're your parents," she said, like that ended the conversation. "You can take the basement, or you can figure something else out." Basement. They wanted me to move into a cold, unfinished basement in a house I had been paying for, so my brother could play artist with his girlfriend upstairs. I didn't argue then. Not because I agreed, because I was watching. I was listening to the way they said it. Like I was a guest. Like I didn't have rights. Like my money was just help and their comfort was ownership. And I want you to comment this seriously. If you were paying for a house and your parents told you to move into the basement so your unemployed sibling could take your room, what would you do? Would you fight right there, or would you quietly plan your exit? Because the next part is where my parents stopped pretending it was a discussion. They gave me an eviction countdown in my own home. And they did it with the kind of confidence people have when they think you'll never stop paying for their lifestyle. That dinner happened on a Tuesday, which is almost funny now because Tuesday is supposed to be a normal day. Not the day your parents decide to throw you out of a house you've been paying for. My mom cooked like it was a celebration. She made Ryan's favorite meal, set the table with the good plates, and kept saying things like, "It's so nice having the family together again," while barely looking at me. Ryan and his girlfriend showed up late, loud, and comfortable. She walked in like she already lived there, kicked her shoes off by the door, and started talking about how the master bedroom gets the best lighting. Ryan nodded like this was all obvious. My dad waited until we were seated. He tapped his fork against his plate like he was calling a meeting. "All right," he said. "We're doing this today, so there's no more drama." I almost smiled at that word. Drama. Like I was the one creating chaos by wanting to sleep in the room I'd been paying for. He looked straight at me and said, "Ryan and Kayla are moving in. They need the master bedroom. You'll move your things to the basement." I put my fork down slowly. "Dad, I'm not trying to be difficult," I said, keeping my voice calm, "but I pay the mortgage. Every month. If I'm being pushed out, who's taking over the payments?" My mom let out a sigh like I'd embarrassed her. "Here we go," she muttered. Ryan leaned back in his chair and smirked. "You always bring money into everything." I looked at him. "Because money is literally keeping this roof over your head." Kayla rolled her eyes and said, "It's not that deep. Families help each other." That made my dad sit up straighter like he'd found the angle he liked. "Exactly," he said. "Families help each other." You're acting selfish. Selfish. The word hit me in the chest, not because it was new, but because it was the same script every time. If I said no, I was selfish. If I asked questions, I was ungrateful. If I defended myself, I was starting drama. I asked again, still calm. So you're telling me I need to pack up and leave my room so Ryan can have it, even though I'm the one paying for the house? My mom's face hardened. Jessie, she said, slow and sharp, this is our house. We raised you here. You just live here. My dad nodded like that was the final word. You have 24 hours, he said. Basement or out. I waited for the part where someone laughed and said, We're kidding. Nobody did. Ryan actually smiled like he'd won something. Thanks, he said to my parents, and then he looked at me like I was just background noise. Don't take it personal. I felt my throat tighten, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg. I didn't cry at the table. I just stared at them long enough to let it sink in. They truly believed I would keep paying no matter how they treated me. And I want you to comment this because I know people have strong opinions about this. If your parents told you, it's our house, you just live here, while you were paying the mortgage, would you argue harder, or would you go quiet and let them prove it? I got up, picked up my plate, and put it in the sink. My hands were steady, but my stomach was burning. I walked to my room and started packing the basics. Not because I agreed. 'Cause I wanted to see what they would do next. My mom stood in the doorway watching me like a supervisor. Take what you need, she said, but don't be dramatic. Ryan walked past with Kayla and pointed into my room like he was touring. We should put the bed over there, he said. Kayla giggled like it was cute. I kept folding my clothes one by one and I didn't look at them. That night, I slept with my phone beside me, fully dressed, because something in me didn't trust them to wait the full 24 hours. And I was right. The next day, I came back from work and found my bag sitting outside the front door. Not neatly. Tossed. Like trash. My suitcase was tipped over, and one of my boxes had popped open in the rain. I tried my key. It didn't work. I tried again, slower, like the lock might suddenly feel guilty and change its mind. It didn't. Then my dad opened the door just enough to show his face. We changed the locks, he said, like he was telling me the time. You can get the rest of your things later when we're home. My mom appeared behind him and said, You'll thank us someday. This will build character. Ryan shouted from inside, laughing. Welcome to adult life. I stood there on the porch, looking at the house I'd been paying for, locked out like a stranger. My chest felt tight. My ears rang. And for a split second, I thought this is the part where I lose it. But I didn't. I looked at my dad and I smiled. Not a happy smile. Kind of smile you give when someone just signed their own paperwork without reading it. Okay, I said softly. Got it. I picked up my bags, loaded them into my car, and drove away without another word. And as I pulled off the street, one thought kept repeating in my head, calm as a business decision. You want the house? You can have the bills too. Stay with me, seriously, because the next part is where I don't threaten them, I don't warn them, I don't argue. I check into a hotel, open my laptop, and make one quiet change that starts a chain reaction they can't undo. I didn't drive to a friend's place. I didn't drive to my parents' relatives. I didn't even drive to my old neighborhood to cry in my car. I drove to a hotel. Not because I was being dramatic. Because I needed one night where nobody could unlock a door and remind me I was lucky to be tolerated. I needed a room that was mine, even if it was only for a few days. At the front desk, the receptionist asked, Just one guest? I almost laughed. Yeah, I said. Just me. When I got to my room, I dropped my bags, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the wall for a full minute. My hands were still steady, but my body finally started to feel what my mind had been holding back. The humiliation. The anger. The sick feeling of being treated like a tenant they could throw out, while my name was the one keeping their house alive. Then my phone buzzed. Text from my mom. Don't be stubborn. Come back and apologize. We're family. I didn't respond. Another buzz. Text from my dad. Stop acting like a victim. You brought this on yourself. I read it once. Then I set the phone down gently like it was nothing. 'Cause the truth was, I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a person with a decision to make. I opened my laptop, connected to the hotel Wi-Fi, and signed into my bank account. I didn't feel excited. I didn't feel guilty either. I felt the way you feel when you finally stop arguing with reality. There it was, staring at me like a monthly reminder of how much I'd been carrying. The mortgage payment. The automatic withdrawal. The same one that had been leaving my account every month while my parents called the house theirs. And I heard my mom's voice in my head, clear as day. This is our house. You just live here. So I whispered just to myself, okay. Then I removed my payment method from the autopay. I didn't slam the laptop shut. I didn't cry. I didn't have to hype myself up. I simply turned off the one thing that had been saving them from consequences. Because here's the part people always forget. You can't lock someone out and still expect them to keep funding your life. That's not family. That's a subscription. And before anyone says, but your credit, trust me, I thought about that too. My chest tightened when I pictured my credit score dropping. I pictured late notices. I pictured that ugly feeling of your name attached to a mess. But then I pictured myself standing on that porch with my bags in the rain and my dad telling me, we changed the locks. And I thought, if they can be that cold, I can be that practical. I made a few more changes that same night. Not revenge changes. Cleanup changes. Anything that was in my name, anything I was paying for, I separated from that house. I updated billing. I transferred what I could. I canceled what I couldn't justify anymore. Then I did the most important part. I told no one. I didn't call my mom and warn her. I didn't send my dad a dramatic paragraph. I didn't text my brother a little good luck. I let them stay comfortable inside the fantasy they created. 'Cause comfort makes people careless. And if you're watching this on Jenny's Karma Diaries, you already know this is how the financial guillotine works. You don't swing the blade with emotions. You just stop holding it up. Quick question, comment yes or a no so I can see where you stand. Should I have warned them first, even after they threw my bags outside and changed the locks? And please keep watching till the end, because the most satisfying moment isn't even the power getting shut off. It's when my dad calls me furious and I repeat his own words back to him like I'm reading him a receipt. That night, I slept better than I expected. Not because I was happy. 'Cause my nervous system finally believed me. I wasn't going back. I wasn't begging. And I wasn't paying for people who had just proved they didn't respect me at all. For the first week, nothing happened. And that was the scary part because silence makes people think they got away with it. My mom posted a photo on Facebook of my brother and his girlfriend moving in, like it was a sweet family moment. Ryan uploaded a story of the master bedroom with the caption, "New studio space." They were acting like they'd won a prize, not like they'd thrown their daughter out into the rain. Meanwhile, I was in my hotel room eating takeout, working my shifts and watching my banking app like a weather forecast. On the first due date, my phone buzzed with a notification from the bank. Mortgage payments scheduled. Pending. Then another notification later that day. Payment not received. Late fee will apply after the grace period. I stared at the screen for 2 seconds. Then I swiped it away. No panic. No guilt spiral. Just a quiet, steady thought. You said it wasn't my house. A few days later, my mom texted me like nothing had changed. Are you coming to Sunday dinner? I didn't answer. My dad texted next. Grow up and stop this. You'll come back when you calm down. Still, I didn't answer. 'Cause here's what I learned the hard way. When people are used to controlling you, they mistake your silence for weakness. They don't realize it can also be a decision. By the end of the first month, the late notices started hitting their mailbox. I know because my brother couldn't resist bragging, even about problems. He posted another story from the living room complaining about adult bills and laughing like it was cute. Then, in month 2, the house stopped feeling like a victory. The first domino that fell was the power. One night, my mom texted me in all caps. "Why is the electricity out? Fix this now." I looked at my phone, took a slow sip of my coffee, and typed back one sentence. "I don't live there anymore. Not my house, not my bill." She replied instantly. "Don't play games. You're doing this on purpose." I didn't deny it. I didn't argue. I just wrote, "You changed the locks. I respected your decision." And for the first time in my life, I could almost hear her brain trying to understand what it feels like when someone stops rescuing you. Now tell me in the comments, honestly. If your mom texted you, "Fix this now," after kicking you out, would you even reply, or would you block her right there? Around that same time, Ryan tried too. Not an apology. Not even a real question. He messaged me, "Yo, what's the login for the Wi-Fi?" It's being weird. That's who he was. The house could be on fire and he'd still ask where the snacks were. I didn't answer him either. Then month 3 hit, and that's when panic finally showed up at their door in paper form. A notice from the lender. Bold letters. Official language. Kind of letter that doesn't care about family titles or guilt trips. It only cares about one thing: payment history. My dad called me that night. He didn't start with "Jesse." He didn't start with "Can we talk?" He started with rage. "What did you do?" he shouted the second I picked up. I didn't match his volume. I didn't give him emotion. I just let him talk until he ran out of breath, because I knew he was about to say the most important part out loud. "You can't just stop paying," he snapped. "This is our home." I paused for one beat, calm and clear. "You told me it was your house," I said. "So I left." He growled, "You're being petty." I kept my tone steady. "I'm being consistent." He tried the old trick next, the one that used to work on me. "You're ruining the family," he said. "After everything we did for you." I felt my jaw tighten, but I stayed polite. "You raised me," I said. "And then you locked me out. You made the rules. I just followed them." There was a silence on the line that felt different. Not empty. Scared. 'Cause in that silence, he realized something. He could call me selfish. He could call me ungrateful. But he couldn't force my bank account to behave like a doormat. And listen, stay with me until the end, because the next part is where the consequences stop being letters and start being a knock at the door. Kind of knock that makes people grab boxes in a hurry. One more question for you to comment before we move on. When my dad called screaming, should I have felt sorry for him, or do you think the moment he changed the locks, he chose this outcome himself? At exactly 6:07 a.m., my phone started buzzing so hard it rattled across the nightstand in my little apartment. It was my mom. I stared at the screen for a second, half asleep, then I answered, mostly because I wanted to hear the moment their confidence finally broke. "Jesse," she screamed before I could even say hello. "There are men at the door, there's banging, your father is yelling, what did you do?" In the background, I could hear it. A loud, official knock. Not a neighbor knock. Not a friendly reminder knock. A law knock. Then a man's voice, calm and firm, cut through the chaos on her end of the line. "Sheriff's office." "Ma'am, you need to open the door." My mom was breathing like she was running. "Tell them this is our home," she hissed at me, like I was somehow the customer service line for consequences. "Tell them you'll pay. Tell them it was a mistake." I sat up, fully awake now, and looked around my quiet apartment, the place I'd rented in advance because I knew I needed a soft landing. My coffee maker. My keys on my own table. My door that nobody else could lock me out of. Then I heard my dad in the background shouting, "This is my house. You can't do this." The sheriff's voice stayed even. Sir, the property has been through the default process. Notices were issued. Payment has not been made. We're here with paperwork. You need to vacate. My mom yelled into the phone, Jesse, fix it! Fix it right now. And I finally said the sentence I'd been holding back for months. Mom, I said, calm and clear, you told me it wasn't my house. You told me I just lived there. Remember? She made this broken sound like anger and fear got tangled together. That's not what we meant. Behind her, Ryan, my brother, sounded panicked for the first time in his life. Dad, you said you handled it, he shouted. You said she'd come back and pay. Then Kayla's voice jumped in, sharp and scared. I am not getting put on the street for this. It was like the whole golden child fantasy collapsed in real time. Everyone was suddenly looking for the adult in the room. And for years, that adult had been me. But I didn't live there anymore. The sheriff said something like, You have a limited time to gather essentials, and I heard drawers slamming, boxes scraping, my mom crying, my dad arguing like volume could reverse a paper trail. Then my mom lowered her voice, trying a new tactic, softer, desperate. Jesse, please. Just make one payment. One. We'll figure it out after. I almost laughed, but it came out as a slow exhale. No, I said. You already figured it out. You chose Ryan. You changed the locks. You wanted me out. This is what your house costs. There was a pause on the line where I could tell she was staring at the door, hearing the world move forward without her permission. Then she snapped, You're enjoying this. I kept my tone flat. I'm surviving it. Like I always have. And right then, over her shoulder, I heard the most humiliating part. Neighbors. Muffled voices outside. Someone asking, Is everything okay? Someone else saying, Is that the sheriff? 'Cause nothing hits harder than being exposed in your own driveway in the early morning while the whole street watches you carry your life out in soggy boxes. I ended the call with one last sentence, gentle but final. You got your space, I said. Looks like you got the whole street. Then I hung up. Comment this for me, be honest. If you were me, would you have answered that 6 a.m. call, or would you have let it ring and protected your peace? Stay with me to the end because the last part is the cleanest karma of all, what they tried to beg for afterward, and what I said at my own door when they showed up with excuses. For the rest of that day, my phone stayed strangely quiet. No more screaming. No more commands. No more fix this now. 'Cause once you've been walked out by official paperwork, there isn't much left to threaten someone with. That night, I got a single text from my dad. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a question. It was just, we need to talk. I stared at it and felt something twist in my stomach. Old fear, old training. Part of me that still expected consequences for not obeying. Then I looked around my apartment again and reminded myself. He can't ground me. He can't lock me out. He can't hold the house over my head anymore. So I didn't respond. 2 days later, I heard what happened through a cousin who loves gossip like it's a hobby. Apparently my parents, my brother, and his girlfriend had gone to stay with Kayla's parents in their basement. Not a guest room. Not a comfy little temporary arrangement. A basement. Mattresses on the floor. Boxes stacked against the wall. For grown adults sharing the same space, all because my parents needed to prove Ryan deserved my room. The irony was almost poetic. They wanted me in a basement. Now they were in one. I know some people would celebrate that with a big dramatic laugh. I didn't. I just felt finished. Like a chapter closed. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. There was a cost for me, too. My credit took a hit. Not a life-ending one, but enough to sting. Enough to remind me that I'd been tied to their choices for too long. That's why, before I ever stopped paying, I made sure I had a place lined up. I took a small apartment lease. I kept my job steady. I built a plan that didn't rely on their mood. Because silent mastermind doesn't mean heartless. It means prepared. And I want you to comment this because I see this debate all the time. If stopping payments hurts your credit too, do you still think it's worth it to finally escape? Or should someone keep paying just to protect their score? A week after the sheriff's knock, my mom finally tried a different approach. She didn't text. She didn't call. She showed up. I came home from work and saw her car parked near my building. She was standing by the entrance with a tote bag and a face that looked like she'd been crying. My dad was in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead like he hated being there but hated losing even more. Ryan wasn't with them. Of course he wasn't. Golden children disappear when consequences show up. My mom rushed toward me like we were close. Like she hadn't watched my bags get thrown into the rain. "Jessie," she said, voice shaking, "we made a mistake." I didn't unlock the door yet. I just stood there with my keys in my hand and waited. My dad finally got out of the car. He tried to speak like an authority again. "This has gone far enough," he said. "You made your point." I looked at him calm. "Did I?" I asked. "Because you're still talking like you get to decide when it's over." My mom held up the tote bag like it was a peace offering. "We brought some of your things," she said quickly. "And we thought maybe you could let us stay a few nights. Just until we figure something out." There it was. The real reason. Not love. Not regret. A need. They didn't come to say sorry. They came because they were uncomfortable. My dad stepped closer and lowered his voice like he was negotiating a deal. "We're family," he said. "You can't just leave us like this." I tilted my head. "I didn't leave you," I said. "You evicted me. Remember?" My mom's face tightened. "We didn't evict you," she snapped, and then caught herself like she remembered she needed to sound sweet. "We just needed space for Ryan." I nodded slowly. "And you got it." I reached for the door handle, then stopped and looked at them again, keeping my voice quiet and clear. "Tell me something," I said. "If the house hadn't fallen apart, would you be standing here?" My mom's mouth opened. Nothing came out. My dad's eyes shifted away for half a second. That half second was the answer. I took a breath and said the line I'd been saving. "Sorry," I told them. "In my home, there's no space for freeloaders." Then I opened the building door, stepped inside, and let it close behind me. They started knocking. My mom cried. My dad called my name like it was a threat. I didn't turn around. 'Cause I wasn't running a rescue mission anymore. I was running my life. Stay with me for the final part because the last 30 seconds are the lesson people need to hear, and I want you to tell me in the comments if you think I went too far or if you think this was the only ending that made sense. I went upstairs, set my bag down, and stood by my window for a minute, watching their car sit there like they were waiting for my guilt to do the work for them. My mom kept wiping her face. My dad kept staring at the building like the door should open just because he wanted it to. It didn't. Eventually, they drove away, and the street went quiet again. No shouting. No drama. Just the sound of rain fading and the soft hum of my own space. That was the moment it really hit me. I wasn't scared of them anymore. And I want you to comment this because it matters. Do you think I did the right thing by not letting them stay, or would you have given them one last chance? A lot of people think revenge is loud. Screaming, fighting, breaking things, dragging someone online. That was never my style. My parents raised me around guilt and control, and the funniest part is they trained me to be calm under pressure. They just didn't realize I'd eventually use that calm against them. They said, "It's our house. You just live here." So I left. They changed the locks. So I changed the autopay. They wanted space. So I gave them the whole street. If you've been watching Jenny's Karma Diaries for a while, you know the point of these stories isn't to teach people to be cruel. It's to teach people to stop being used. There's a difference between revenge and boundaries. What I did wasn't about hurting them. It was about refusing to keep hurting myself to keep them comfortable. And yes, my credit score took a hit. But you know what didn't? My peace, my sleep, my ability to look in the mirror and know I didn't betray myself again. So here's the lesson, and I'm saying it for anyone who needs to hear it. Never set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Not even if those people share your last name. Now do me a favor before you go. Hit like if you believe family is not a free pass to abuse someone. Share this with a friend who keeps paying for people who don't respect them. And subscribe for more karma and revenge stories because there's always another mask that slips. And tell me in the comments, if you were paying that mortgage and they changed the locks, would you have stopped paying the same day or would you have waited longer? This is Jenny's Karma Diaries, and if there's one thing I know for sure, it's this. The bank doesn't care about guilt trips. The bank cares about receipts.